Oh gosh, the environment, it's in a mess at the moment. Papa Tuluku's screaming and no one can hear. And you know, the economy and everything else we have talked about depends upon the well-being of our Mother Earth. As tangata whenua, we feel that every day, we hear it every day, all around the country, people are talking about it. And we're having a hang of a job to try and stop what the government is actually doing. The laws won't stop it, the laws are actually assisting it. So they need to be changed. But really the focus was we need to protect the integrity of our environment, and we need to be at the centre of all decision making with our environment as tangata whenua. Some of the things that are in here are things that happen in Parliament, and while I don't like sort of talking about acts of Parliament, the Resource Management Act, which was sort of came out in 1991 during the Rio, after the Rio conference, that act is what they use in terms of regulating the environment. They don't do it very well. In fact, it works against us. And I think about the wind energy turbines all around the country, our sacred sites, the past sites, all of those sorts of things are sacrificed for money. So the economy is always put before the environment. The big turbine that's going to go up at Kaipara, the biggest harbour in the South Pacific. For what reason? The scale of it is phenomenal. There is no need for it. If you fly over Hamilton, you'll see all these flat roofs. You put a solar panel on all those and you've got all that extra energy. We're not using the sun that Maui trapped for us. There's stories that we have that have been passed down that talk about these things, and we haven't learned to actually listen to that wisdom. So, you know, solar energy, we're not even there yet. So we don't have to keep on putting up turbines. There are other alternatives. But we're going to have to change the law. And at the moment, the iwi is recognised in the Resource Management Act. We've asked that the hapu also be there because it's the hapu at the local level that actually confronts a lot of these issues. I mean, in our area we have a big fight going on today back in Waikato with our iwi leadership taking on the Kauhanga Nui. And again, it's all about who's sitting at the top table making decisions. Doesn't matter what the hapu wants, the iwi are making decisions and being heard by Parliament and being heard by ministers, being heard by the Prime Minister. So what we want is we want to see hapu involved in the decision making with their local councils, rather than an iwi that lives somewhere else having preference. Amending the Crown Minerals Act, that has to happen. At the moment, the Crown Minerals Ministry of Economic Development gives out all these permits. The whole of this country has already been divided up. All of the licences have been given for prospecting. And so we know that along our coast very shortly, Trans-Tasman minerals are going to be coming up. They're starting in Taranaki. The fracking starts. How do we deal with this issue? We bring on board Greenpeace. They've got the boats. They can help out in the ocean while we're trying to do stuff on land. It's a huge issue. And they talk about us needing more oil. Well, we've got some policies in here about oil as well. We actually need to start using some of our lands to invest in a national biocrop biodiesel initiative to create large-scale employment, engineering, energy independence from lands that are not suitable for kai, or for farming, or in forest. So we can actually use that ourselves to actually make our own diesel if we're going to have alternatives. Or, you know, they've actually got solar roads at the moment. If you look on the internet, look it up, and there are cars that are going to float one day, apparently. That's the future. Promoting organic food production. You know, we're sick. A lot of our people are sick. And it's what we eat, and what we've been fed, and what we buy in the shops. There's a lot of rubbish in all those products. When you think about our people grew their kai, saved their seeds, grew their kai, shed the kai. And so what we're promoting is organic, going back to growing your own kai, sharing your seeds. And I hear that the government, once again, is trying to bring in laws to regulate even the sharing of seeds and kai. So, you know, it's a good time for one to go in there and challenge these things, because this is the basis. If you can't afford to eat, you need to start growing your own, digging up your front lawns. You know, and that's what we need to be promoting, and we need to be funding those sorts of initiatives. One of the other things that's a real concern is the world we're in. Ban the growing and experimentation of GE and GM crops, and stop in Aotearoa, because at the moment, IRMA, or it's now the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, they import all these viruses and bacteria from overseas, bring them into New Zealand, pretend they've got them all secure in their laboratories, and then they release them to control something else in our environment. You know, that sort of stuff has got to stop. We support GE-free, nanotechnology-free, pesticide and chemical-free food production. Nanotechnology is where scientists don't know the limits. They're so curious, they have to find out how everything works, even to breaking down matter, and then they can't put it back together again. That's the world in which we live. It's a threat to our mokopuna. And so the environment is one of the key policies, I think, that we need to be actually dealing with, and everything else in our whole living depends on it. Kia ora koutou.